So we're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so just digging into some of the big ideas that you've come along with. And I'm going to start, Dr. Shane Rooney, with you. Just tell us a little bit, the 60-second helicopter view of what it is you do. I know you spent time working with the TISL app before, so you're no stranger to this region. But tell us what it is you do, and in particular, some of the implications when it comes to security.
GSMA is the association for the mobile networks of all the world. So all the names that you know from here, Etisalat and Du, to AT&T, to Vodafone, to Docomo in Japan. So we represent 850 network operators, and we have the ecosystem as well, the module manufacturers, device manufacturers, handset manufacturers, and application providers. And so within the GSMA, I look after IoT and machine to machine. Let's not forget that still exists. And we try and foster innovation and how we can enable IoT to scale up to the predictions that all the analysts tell us from the 50 billion to the 1.3 billion, depending devices by 2020, depending which one you believe or don't believe. So that's what our organization does, works with the larger ecosystem to develop these enablers.
So Ali, give us your perspective. I'm sure erroneously described you as working for an advertising company. I'm sure nothing so simplistic exists in the 21st century. Just briefly tell us, joking apart, what it is you do, particularly in the realm of digital, which is your sphere, and how the Internet of Things is impacting that world.
We're not madmen yet, but we're getting there. So, to put it simply, we are the people that usually, every time you see an ad, that ad is usually put by a media agency. Our job is to deliver the right message to the right consumer at the right time. Historically, the screens that we used to deal with are your typical TV, and that's outside of digital. It's the outdoor. But in the past, I think 10 years, we moved completely to either a desktop or a mobile phone. What the Internet of Things changed with us is that it's giving us so many screens to talk to. So in 10 years, most probably, I'm going to talk to you through your Nest thermostat. I'm going to talk to you through your fridge. Every single screen through your watch. Every single screen will become a new way for us to communicate with the consumers. And I think the way that we look at the Internet of Things is in two ways. The first one is gathering the data, because I have so many touch points to talk to you more than I have today. Today, I can know almost everything that you're doing online. I can know what you're doing on your mobile phone, what app do you use, your GPS location, and a guy there was just talking about privacy. So I know almost everything that you're doing today. The Internet of Things is just going to take that and blow it up by 100 because I have all the data, but it also gives me much more screen to talk to you and making it much easier for me to talk to you in the right time at the right place.
Well, let me put things a different way, just to play devil's advocate. Maybe you and organizations like yours will be disintermediated in a world of the Internet of Things and big data. Because traditionally, Procter & Gamble or Unilever or Coke or BMW, whoever it was, needed guys like you, your intuition, your knowledge, your know-how, your sixth sense of where to deliver the messages. And that's why they would use you. And partly because of economies of scale and group discounts, but it was your nous and insight. But given that the data now tells us everything, is there an argument that we don't need a Starcom Mediavest anymore?
It's actually making our life much easier now. We invested, I think, 2 years ago in one of the biggest startups in the US that is built for the world of advertising without cookies. So it's built for the devices. The more and more we invest in that, we're investing much more technology. And you see our clients, and all of our clients want us to push more and more away from your typical, they still use us for buying outdoor and TV, but more and more they're pushing us into technology and to how can we architect all of that hard ecosystem. You have to understand that the more things that you see, it's not making the life of a marketeer easier, it's just making it more complicated. And the way that we used to architect it to understand what the consumer is shaping more into consumer and data and technology. So it's becoming much harder for them to let us go. They actually want us more in their business. They want us to see their bottom line for the first time. They want us to be more in touch with their sales team and everybody else around the organization.
So Shane, I know you're going to talk a lot about security, and that's important, but we don't want it all to be doom and gloom. We'll get to security, and I know you've got a great story about a European car company that's been hacked. But before the doom and gloom, what's the big opportunity from your perspective and also from the perspective of the members of your organization?
Well, we believe for the Internet of Things that the gateway for that is actually the mobile phone, the smartphone. And everybody, well, most people have got a smartphone of some sorts anyway. And we believe that, you know, that's going to be used to control the devices in your home, within your vehicle, your choices around the Internet of Things. If it is, like, as you say, controlling your thermostat, the mobile phone, the smartphone is the one that you're going to use to do that. So we think it's very important that we can contribute to, if you like, the growth of IoT by helping with security and privacy through that gateway, that smartphone.
But if we look at the Internet of Things, the Internet of smartphones we're familiar with, but when we come to the Internet of industrial machines or the Internet of the curtains in my living room, do we need what we would call a mobile phone company to do that? Is it going to be the Vodafones, the Etisalants, the Saudi telecoms of this world that are helping my curtains talk to my shoelaces?
I think they've got a great contribution. It's not going to be exclusive in doing that, because if we look at IoT in its true form, it's going to have multiple bearers. It's not just going to be mobile phone technology, it's also going to be Wi-Fi, it's going to be short-range networks, whether they're mesh networks or Bluetooth or Zigbee. But they all need to be controlled, and devices need to be controlled in a secure manner. Because if you get into those devices, as the name says, Internet of Things, then you get into the system.
So what are the smart companies that you work with, who are your members? What are they doing particularly well? What did you see, for example, at Mobile World Congress this year, where you thought, those guys get it, those guys get the future and they're adapting for that future?
I think everybody who's certainly involved in the mobile industry itself, whether they're module manufacturers, application providers, or mobile operators themselves, are getting involved and recognize that the ecosystem has to work together in order for this to work. So we've seen the start of that, and at the GSMA we have put together a group who are working on a set of guidelines for IoT security, and that's end-to-end security, because standardization takes too long. IoT is such a wide field. You know, how can you create a standard for IoT? So we've at least, if you got the ball rolling and started to get people talking and working with each other, so we can create that secure environment.
So, well, we're on to security now. You say recently a well-known European auto manufacturer was hacked by a friendly source, thankfully, a friendly source which proved it was possible and easy to take control of car functions. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. I'm not going to name the actual manufacturer. I mean, it was well publicized, but I'm not going to do that. But it just serves as an example of why you need to secure communications in the IoT world. It was a very, very simple thing. What they did was reverse engineer what was in the vehicle itself by creating a spoof base station using open software that you get on the internet, and they were able to unlock the vehicle and then get into what they call the OBD connector in the car itself, and they were able to start the car and do absolutely everything that you could possibly do if you had a key.
So Ali, talk to us about, in particular, the elements of IoT that are impacting your world in 2015 in the world of your clients. Give us some examples of things that you're working on that you couldn't have done 2 or 3 years ago?
I'm going to give you a bit of futuristic example, not yet there. So if you're sitting at home, and let's take an example that Philips is my client, and Philips light bulbs is the product we're talking about. Today, what I do is that I target every maybe father out there, every household owner out there, and tell them that Philips has amazing lamps and you have to buy them. And I'm hoping that when you go to the shop and your need for a lamp, you would go buy it because you remember it from TV, from digital, from anywhere else. With the Internet of Things, it will change completely because I would be able to know the second that a light bulb is out. And automatically, because I know that the owner of that house, I can send you to your any handheld device that you have in your hand, a coupon saying, come buy it beforehand. But even with data that comes with the IoT, it's going to become a bit more advanced even. If you know that on average, every lamp lives for 2.5 years, maybe before even the lamp is broken, I can easily send you a message telling you that it will be broken in a couple of weeks. Why don't you go and buy a new one? So the conversation becomes less intrusive, less mass, as it used to be years back, and become direct to the consumer when they need it. In that way, the whole communication becomes much more personal.
Let's talk about the privacy concerns that raises, that you as an advertiser know what's happening. Okay, a light bulb going out in my house perhaps is non-controversial, but the idea that you're snooping around my bedroom knowing what's going on is a bit scary.
It's quite scary and it's quite an interesting topic that everybody talks about today. So as an agency, we make sure that we don't hold, so far we don't, on any single client that we have, we don't hold any personal identifiable information at all. So we never ever try to either track your mobile phone or anything that you're doing. I know everything about you, but I don't know it's you. We have to adhere by these policies globally. Now, does other people have access to that data? For sure. Facebook knows everything about you, where you are, your GPS, your number, where you're at home. They can even listen to you these days. We take good care of it. We don't even want to get to a stage where we own the data, so we're staying away from it. All the data that we get or we have, we'll never be able to identify you, whatever you try to reverse engineer it or do anything with it.
Shane, where do you stand, or your organization, on the privacy issue? There are so many arguments for and against, and it's a complex issue. What are the conclusions that you're drawing at the moment?
Well, privacy is a huge issue. We're all consumers, and we're naturally suspicious that people may be using personal data, whether it's from our mobile phones, or if we go to the true Internet of Things where everything is connected, that data is actually being used, if you like, for a different purpose, shall we say. Whereas we've got to, it's going to be very difficult for us to sell how do we trust the solution provider in how they use that data, because we've got to understand it can be used for good benefits as well for us as a society as well as an individual. And if we are to believe that the Internet of Things will deliver new solutions for society, we've got to learn how to trust those providers. As I saw on Al Jazeera this morning, where in South Korea they're monitoring the 2,700 patients who are quarantined with the MERS respiratory disease that is taking hold there at the moment. So they can track them as to are they truly in quarantine, and that's, you could say, well, that's impinging on their privacy, but you know, they're doing it for the greater good of the community in this particular case, because they don't want this horrible disease to spread throughout the country and have an epidemic.
There was a phrase I heard, I think this very stage a month or two ago at a conference here, and a guy, Robert Scoble, said, people will accept the lack of privacy if you give them deep utility. If you're going to save their life, they don't mind. If there's a really good payoff, then suddenly those fears dissipate. If it's, you know, 50% off a Ferrari, suddenly I don't care about my privacy being compromised.
Exactly. So if your car, say, is contributing to traffic management, say the Sheikh Zayed Road, you're going down here and you're getting information before you get into, say, Jebel Ali coming from Abu Dhabi, telling you you've got 10 miles of congestion, you can make a decision on that. And if you can get a discount on that traffic information, or you get it for free because you've contributed it to that, then that's a benefit, and you probably want to give it.
So Ali, you talk about programmatic solutions, programmatic advertising, advertising that isn't negotiated by two people sitting around a room in Armani suits, but it is just done electronically. Explain what that is, how it works, and how it fits in to the Internet of Things.
So the programmatic is the ability to be able to buy media space in real time and to be able to add data layers to it. The good thing is that at the same time while the Internet of Things is catching up, programmatic is already shaped up globally. So what's going to happen is that with programmatic, the way to deliver the message can be anywhere. So now, if you, again, I'm going to go back to the same example of a fridge, of anything that's at home. Where I place the message does not matter anymore. The fact that I'm able to buy it programmatically, buy it in real time, means that I can place it anywhere I want. So whatever the Internet of Things come up with, whatever device that you have, whether it's the way I take data from it, or whether how I place the ad on it, will no longer matter anymore. It all becomes different screens that we talk to or we get data from. I just want to highlight on some of the points of what is the tipping point of privacy and what tipping point is the user that allows you to use that data for their own good. I'm going to give you an example from Google. I forgot the name of the product, but 3 years ago, they came up with a Google product that allows you to map out all your friends across the map. So wherever you are, you can see your friends, wherever they are. They had to kill that product after 6 months because people thought that it was a privacy concern. Why do I want everybody to see where I am? But if you look at today, Google Maps, for example, because Google Maps is giving you the ability to find where the traffic jam, how to go there, all of that things, everybody's using it, and that fear of GPS location, where it was 3 years ago, it was a big thing. Today, everybody wants to share that location so that they can help everybody else around them.
Let's take a couple of ideas from the floor. Who's got any ideas? Very keen to get your insights, or who wants to question one of our speakers about their ideas? We've got a couple of minutes for questions. Yes, please. There's a question over there to my far left. If we can get a microphone to this gentleman, please. Thank you very much indeed. Raise your hand again, please, sir, so my colleague can see you. That's lovely. Thank you.
Hi, this is Bikram from Petrico Consulting. I wanted to sort of break down the two things, security and privacy. See, privacy, from what I understand today, being in the security for some time, people have started giving up willingly a lot of the privacy. You carry a mobile around, you do Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, most of the privacy out. But I'm really concerned, and this is where I would like the industry to sort of come up with the security. For example, if I know the pattern of when a person is staying at home or not based on his power consumption, when I start understanding the patterns of people, how and when are they going, targeted attacks become very strong, right? I mean, we have seen a lot of things that are happening when you start understanding the various patterns based on consumption, on patterns of where you're traveling, what is the electricity consumption, what sort of devices you can also.
Thanks very much indeed. It's a very valid question. Shane.
I think you have to look at security and privacy as a double-sided coin. You can't have one without the other. So you have to control devices themselves. You have to have two-way communications in order for that to happen. And if you don't have that, then you don't get privacy. It allows others to sort of intercept and hack into particular systems. So you can't look at them in isolation. So I would say you have to look at both. In order to get privacy, you have security.
Take one or two more ideas from the floor. Yes, please. The gentleman straight in front of me, and then the lady right at the front here, please. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, this is Badr Al-Garni from Microsoft. My question is regarding security. So when it comes to security, we're always talking about reactive security. Something happens, then we take an action. What about proactive?
Thank you very much indeed. Shane.
In fact, everything I say is proactive. So when I talk about security, I'm talking about designing it into the system from the beginning. So whether that is, if you were using, say, HTTP, that you use HTTPS. So your protocol is a secure protocol. And that was one of the issues with that car company and how they got hacked, was because they weren't doing that. And that's just a very simple design mistake from the beginning. So everything I advocate is around proactive security than reactive. Two-way communications in a device. If you can't update a smart meter and you're only receiving one-way communications, that's open to attack because you can't do anything about it.
We'll take one final question. Yes, please. The lady at the front row here. Can we get a microphone to this lady? Could you raise your hand? Lovely. Thanks so much.
Hi, you've talked a lot about standardising products and hardware in this conference, but obviously with privacy, the laws across the globe are different. Can you standardise privacy laws? Because that's something that people are going to have to think about in terms of what you can do in one country, you might not be able to do when you're talking about anonymising data or targeting users with advertising. Does that make sense?
We'll get a word from Shane on that, and then how you as an advertising company across the globe handle different legislations. Okay.
Sure, you're absolutely right. It varies from territory to territory with different regulations within government. So you do have to adapt any privacy laws and work around those privacy laws. You can have a set of basic rules for privacy, but they have to be adapted to local law. From the UAE, it's very different from the US. So yes, that's correct.
And Ali, I guess from two perspectives. One is the regulation of privacy and how much data, how much of my data you can use. That will differ in Germany or India. The other thing is that once you get that data, the message that you send to me has to be tailored. Maybe if I'm in Australia, you can send me a picture of a woman with a bikini trying to sell me a Philips light bulb. But if you send that to me and I'm in Riyadh, then that's a problem, isn't it? So how do you handle this cross-territoriality, for want of a better phrase?
So I echo what you just said. So it is a concern across every country and it's totally different. The laws in the UAE from a data privacy perspective is still much loose than what Europe is, much loose. In so many cases, like we had to open our programmatic and we're talking to some of the telcos here to get some data. It's still very loose compared to Europe, but talking to your point when it comes to creative, that I think it's the self-control that we have to take into consideration every single country. In Saudi, you can't even put a face on a girl online. You cannot advertise that. So that's one of the ways that we help our clients to tell them what they should do in terms of creative, in terms of messaging, all of that across every single country. And we need to be able to do that globally because most of the clients are becoming global with us.
Fascinating insights. Shane, Ali, thanks very much indeed.